r/AskReddit. Teachers, what's the darkest thing you've seen from a student? Our school had a selective mute kid that graduated last year. Kids were calling him Fish Boy. It turns out he was buying fish and killing them in various ways on Instagram, based on people's requests in the comments. Edit, was not expecting to be the top comment and didn't realize I haven't been on Reddit in 3 days. He was not a student of mine, so I can't really elaborate. All I remember is the school found out because he brought a fish to school. Edit again. I teach middle school and I'm surprised how much selective mutism is a thing. We have 3 selective mutes this year. Kid seemed down and I asked him to please tell me what was wrong. Not today, but when you're ready. I was his last class of the day and he promised he would. End of the year comes and he told me his brother killed himself. He said he thought about the same many times, but always remembered that he had made me a promise. I made him promise to call me if he ever thought he might again, and he promised me again. He's doing amazingly well and is about to graduate from college. I'm a teacher. A student saw one of my former co-teachers at some point with his wife and thought she was hot, and my co-teacher took advantage of this to get the student to secretly record his sister taking showers and shit. He offered videos of his wife performing sexual acts on / with him to the student in exchange. He finally got caught when the student blackmailed the teacher into trying to get the wife to duck him, and when he proposed it to his wife, she called the cops. Imagine being so far gone that you ask your wife, hey, wanna sleep with this kid? I've been sending him videos of us in return for pics of his sister and expecting it to go somewhat okay. I taught welding and metal sculpture at the high school level for a year. One morning, one of my students, a quiet, awkward, but really nice young man, came into class and asked me for a band-aid. I asked him what for, and he replied that it was for a burn. Class hadn't started yet for the day. He showed me, and it was a fresh 2nd-degree burn that was already blistering. It was in the shape of an A. Some kids, if I'm going to be honest, they were bottom performers and troublemakers from a different class of mine, had swiped a small metal letter from one of my supply bins, heated it with a lighter, and then branded this kid on the morning school bus. He had let the kids do it because he really wanted to fit in. He didn't have many friends and these kids had seemed cool because they were always acting out. As a mandatory reporter, I reported it. The police got involved. Other than that, I have no idea what else happened. A list simply entitled "The List" with a few students' names and my co-teacher's name on it was a student with some serious behavioral disabilities on it who admitted it was a kill list. Edit, RIP my inbox. Lots of people on here who experienced something similar. No, this was not recent. The student received appropriate support after this incident. Well, hey, at least this means you were the fun teacher. I've got 2. I had a student casually tell me about how he pulled the eyes out of his rabbit's head. He explained how there was blood everywhere. This was my first day working as a supply teacher at that school, and my first conversation with the student. I later brought it up to support staff and they were shocked he mentioned it to me. Apparently he killed his rabbit because his mom loved it more than she loved him. The boy was now in foster care as his mother was a drug addict. He shared a lot of really dark stuff with me that day. Another one, more sad than dark, was at a different school. Students had to write their address for an assignment, but this 4th grade girl didn't know hers. Another student asked me, do you know where the so and so motel is? She lives there. Really broke my heart, as this girl was so young and innocent, and didn't really understand how unfortunate her living situation was as she proudly googled the motel and found her address. Really low income part of town. I teach an algebra class, and I was explaining how, in our city at least, your address tells you how far you are from the central streets like a Cartesian coordinate system. A girl, who happens to be my daughter's friend, volunteered to let me graph her address. 3 months later, a boy got expelled for threatening to shoot up the school. He had her address and written threats to kidnap her from her house. He got the address from that class. Answering questions from thread. 1 point, I do not blame myself for the actions of crazy people. He could have found info several other ways. 2. I put my address up first and my daughter's friend wanted to use hers so that they could know the distance between their houses was the point of the exercise. 3. Kid has 0.0% chance of kidnapping her. I know her family well. Not a teacher, but I did do a lot of volunteer work with little kids. One of the 5th grade boys was caught grabbing random girls and trying to pull them into the supply closet and try to kiss them. He was even caught trying to grab their butts or would out his hand on their seat as they started to sit down. When we finally got to talk to his parents, turned out his grandpa was teaching him these things. The weirdest part was, when we questioned the grandpa about it, his response was, "Who cares? They're just little girls." My first year teaching was, like everyone says, the worst year. The first day of school, I'm getting to know the kids by asking them random questions, and I ask this one boy what he wants to be when he grows up, and he replies with, "Doesn't matter, I'm going to end up in prison like my parents." Woo, okay. From there things got progressively worse. He was hearing voices and always threatening to hurt other staff or students. He was hitting his head on walls or windows when frustrated. He came back from spring break and told me the voices told him to kill a cat he found. By the end of the year he was assaulting girls at school. Saw a couple of kids walking down the hallway. One ends up behind another, for no reason at all, punches him in the head as hard as he can. I immediately call him over and ask why the crap he did it. He immediately acts like he has no idea what I'm talking about. If I hadn't seen him do it, I'd probably have believed it. He was so convincing. I remind him there are cameras, and then he admits he did it just because he wanted to. No remorse, no reason, no regret. I had multiple other incidents like that with him through the year. I worked in a low-income, high-needs school then and tried my best not to judge my students, but it was weird to honestly believe this 14-year-old was going to seriously injure or kill someone one day. Darkest thing, I was an intervention specialist. Had a student who was a mysterious pooper. For a while he would poop on the floor in the bathroom and no one knew who was doing it. Ah yes, the mad pooper, as we called our versions of him. Every school and generation has this, a timeless classic. We called ours streaks cause he would poop in the urinals and then take it and spread it on the walls. Our middle school. A student of mine was a constant troublemaker and wannabe thug. During a football game, he broke his arm and had it placed in a plaster cast. A few days later, he got into an argument with another student. At the end of the day, wannabe thug jumped the other kid and started pummeling his face with the cast. Wannabe was arrested, and the other kid was hospitalized for almost a week with massive facial injuries. 2 black eyes, a broken nose, multiple lost teeth, and multiple cuts to his face from the beating. Edit/update. Most comments are stating the obvious. He doesn't sound like a wannabe thug based in this account. Rest assured, until he went beast mode, he was a wannabe. His status obviously improved after this, and after his time in juvie. But once his arm healed, and his weapon was removed, his status quickly diminished as his buddies realized he was a one-hit wonder. There's so many things to say here from a middle school teacher. Here are a few. 1. A video started circulating of one of my students curb stomping a cat. Then a few weeks later, the same student was spreading rumors that they were planning to shoot up the school on the last day. This quickly was taken over by the local police and investigated. 2. I've unfortunately seen way too many students suffer from the after effects of all types of abuse, which is truly heartbreaking. 3. Then there is a classic kid that likes to bring weird toys to school like Barbie doll heads and just play with them, as if they are the only one in the room. He would also bring water in vodka bottles and honestly think nothing was wrong with it. 4. Saw a kid try to jump off the balcony. School is 2 stories. Same kid also put their hands aggressively on another teacher. I think the scariest thing is just realizing that there is a chance that you are witnessing the childhood years of a serial killer. One of my teacher friends told me about a student that had super troubled, abusive childhood, had a history of torturing animals, and he would make comments to female students about how much he liked their skin in a beyond creepy way. I'm not a teacher, but in junior high we had a special ed kid and everyone got along with him, and the 2 troublemakers we had gave him a knife and told him to hurt himself with it. They got suspended or expelled. People like that genuinely make me sick. The bad parenting hurts my soul. What kind of kid would even think to do that? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. One time when I was teaching a US history class in prison, some students were asking how abortions were done before it was legal. So I mentioned a few methods and finished with, then there's the age-old method of accidentally falling down the stairs. A student at the back piped up, as serious as could be, that one still works. It saves 5 grand, but costs 12 years. This is written like a really dark joke. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.